Hey everyone. Hi. I'm testing out my mic to see how this works, but yeah. So today I'm a little burnt out. I've been laying in bed. I've been binge watching Malcolm in the Middle. The show's actually kind of funny. A bit dated in quite a few aspects, but overall it's a pretty good show. And I've been pretty much enjoying it. I got a new mic, so that's pretty good. So let's bust this in like a new pair of shoes, shall we? I've been asking people for a while what their favorite or what their film or television hot take is. And I have a few of them. Hopefully, we'll get more in future videos. So if you have any hot takes about film or television, put them in the comment section down below and we'll see if we can make this a series. So first up is a take from a fellow film nerd that I have collaborated with a few times, Hizzy Hay on YouTube, and he says, Trap is the greatest movie ever. I mean, I guess in terms of hot takes, that's fine. Look, I've watched Trap at least twice now. It's in my 2024 list on Letterboxd, link in the description below. But Trap is pretty fun. It is a pretty good film for Josh Hartnett because Josh Hartnett plays the main character pretty well. I think overall the film is really funny. It has a lot of Shyamalan, quirks that some fans really love. I like some of it. I don't like other parts of it. It's not my favorite Shyamalan film. But if you think it's the greatest movie of all time, I mean, it's not too bad. I literally have friends who think that The Room is legitimately the best movie ever made. And that's their opinion. I think that's fine. I think that's a terrifically hilarious and also, pretty earnest answer. So if you think that Trap is the best movie of all time, I think that's fine. I think that's a pretty good one. This one comes from a YouTube comment from a Soviet Coffee 404 who says, more films should be made on the prospect of alternate history and how it should give us insight on not only our past, but how radically different our future would look. Of course, you could point to the hundreds of TV shows done on things like Man in the High Castle, but those aren't very realistic and are mostly for easy clicks instead of wanting an in-depth review on possible history and just stick to the bread and butter. I see what he means here. I think, alternate history movies are it's an interesting subject. I mean, there's some alternate history that works really well. Sometimes you can find alternate history in like other genres such as sci-fi. It really depends, honestly, what the alternate history really is. I mean, because like Wolfenstein, for instance, is a great example of alternate history because it presents a history where, the bad guys won, and it presents a new way of looking at the struggle against fascism. And I think when those games were being made, or at least the new Colossus, that game was very much on the precipice of the first Trump administration, where it kind of just talked about a lot of, points against fighting, fascism and whatnot. So yeah, I do kind of think there is some room for some alternate history, especially if you're trying to talk about it in the sense of like current events and current issues, how an alternate history event of the past, how it would have gone differently, would lead to something that is socially equitable or even comparable. I think it's interesting, the idea of alternate histories. Granted, I don't think I could ever pull the strength to make an alternate history, but I do commend them for that. For any person who tries to do something with that. Another one from the same person, Death of Stalin and El Camino would really benefit from sequels. Okay, so I'll say this real quick. There's more to the comment, obviously, but I have not seen Death of Stalin. I heard it's really good. I would love to watch it someday. I did not get around to watching it for this video, which I was originally planning. But from everything I heard, it sounds like a really fun time. However, I have seen El Camino, so I will give some comments on this. I don't think we need one. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna respond to the hot take with a hot take. I don't think El Camino needs a sequel. I think it's perfectly fine. El Camino to me is the full finale, or rather the full epilogue of the character of Jesse Pinkman. This is a character that we have followed for so long, who has been through so much shit, that to see him have somewhat of a finale in the way of El Camino is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Is the film perfect? No. But what would even a sequel to the film even be? It's an interesting proposition, but I just don't know what they would do per se for a sequel to El Camino. My friend Roy, he says, hot take. I was disappointed in Civil War. I think I was expecting an action movie and instead was given a treatise on the pointlessness of war. Well, I don't quite agree, Roy. So here's the thing. Civil War is a very contentious movie for a lot of reasons. Because, yes, a lot of people probably did go into this thinking this was going to be some big action film, when really it's Alex Garland telling us as a British person that America is poised to go into some form of civil war. And granted, it's also about like the non-heroism of photojournalism, which is a whole different topic unto itself that I don't really have the time really to discuss. And granted, I don't think Civil War was that perfect, but there was definitely some scenes in that film where I was like, yeah, this seems pretty realistic. I mean, like, I take, for instance, the sniper field scene, where the photojournalists are talking to, like, these military guys behind cover, and they're in, like, this little, like, Christmas village. And the thing is that, you know, they're talking with them, they're like, oh, so what side are you on? Are you on this side or on that side? And they're like, what side? And I feel like this is like kind of where Alex Garland is kind of saying that in a war that is like a second American Civil War, because of how atomized and isolationist our country has become over time, and how radicalized we have become into different echo chambers, it's given, you know, this aspect that there isn't necessarily a uniformity to the political aspects of this country. Like, yes, we have people who are on the left side of the political spectrum and on the right side of the political spectrum, but in essence, because of the way that we talk about politics, it has become somewhat like, you know, taboo really to kind of take a full side, so everyone has their own side. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of different. I mean, this is kind of Alex saying that, like, again, in a second Civil War, it wouldn't be as simple as North versus South, you know, like the first American Civil War. If a second American Civil War were to break out, you know, yes, the war would be bad. The war itself would be bad because there's civilians in danger. There's, you know, different factions that are taking up arms to, like, do their own version of leadership. I mean, that scene with, like, Jesse Plemons, for instance, is a big indicator of how some people who are, like, really, really bad would actually take control of a situation like what would happen in this movie and just use it for their own hateful ways. And, you know, that's not too far off from what I would see happening here. Maybe it's because I actually live here, but, like, I don't know. It's, you know, and granted, I don't think Civil War is that perfect of a movie. I just don't think so. And Roy has a second hot take. Smile 2 was better than Smile. I loved how they lean into the first person, unreliable narrator viewpoint. It really makes the audience question what is real or not. So here's what I will say, okay? I'm not a fan of the Smile movies at all. I think, like, I get that there is a horror sometimes to mental health, but at the same time, I found the first film deeply, deeply nihilistic, and the second film even more so. The thing about Smile 2, though, is that I kind of agree. There is definitely elements of that movie where you could not really tell what is real and what is not. It is a fantastic display of just breaking down reality for the main character. And it does so in a more spectacular and weird fashion. Like, I would almost liken Smile 2 to be like a small mini reboot of sorts. Now, granted, again, as I said, the way the films have navigated mental health is very, very questionable at best, and at worst, just poorly misguided. I have talked to various friends who have seen the film, and they're just like, yeah, it's not that good. Like, it's terrible. But that's also kind of like the unique thing about Smile because of how successful it is, because there are people who are having that discussion. Whether or not the films themselves are, are actually thematically interesting, are actually relevant. Having these deeper discussions about how we visualize or how we show mental health, how we position mental health, especially in horror as a genre. I mean, there are various horror villains that have mental disabilities and, who are vilified. And that is something to kind of take issue with, right? But yeah, I mean, I do agree that Smile 2 is better than Smile 1, but to me, it's also not as good. I mean, both are not good movies, but, like, Smile 2 is better. By leagues, by leaps and bounds. But still. And then last but not least, I have a bunch of them. I have a whole list of hot takes from a friend named Frank. So, let's get into it. Wicked. Pretty amazing. Looking forward to watching the next movie. Same, honestly. Dune 2. I needed to watch these movies with a Dune fan to get through them. There's something about the Dune story that doesn't click with me. I mean, I get it. It's really dense. It's a very dense universe, and there's a lot. Like, there is a lot of lore for this particular series. And sometimes, I mean, I even tried to read the first book. And it's a bit challenging because the way that the book is written is a bit different than what I'm normally used to. But I'm always down to try again for most things, and that would be one. But to me, though, I don't even think I needed a Dune expert to watch the Dune movies, because I think it does a decent enough job setting up the different stakes that are at hand. But what I will say is that Dune 1 is not as good as Dune 2, because Dune 1 was all the first setup. The entire movie was set up, and it goes on for a really long time. The second movie takes all that setup and executes on it in every way imaginable. And both movies give a very different experience, but when you watch them both back to back, it's a very interesting experience that I can't quite quantify or even talk about, really, because it's a lot. There's a lot to really discuss about the way both of them interact with each other and then simultaneously act as two completely different movies, even though it's all one story, which is very interesting to me. The Wild Robot. I just liked it. I mean, that's fine. I mean, sometimes you can have a wrong opinion. Okay, I'm just joking. I'm very, very much joking. You are free to dislike a movie that I really liked. And, like, look, if you just liked it, that's fine, right? I think it's a beautiful movie about motherhood. I think it's a beautiful movie about reprogramming what our assumed natures are to benefit those of a community. And it makes sense to me, right? It's a really good movie. And that's why it's in my, like, best movies of 2024 video. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. I'm surprised how unmotivated I am to watch this movie, even on streaming, considering how much I love Fury Road. I mean, I get it, right? I talked about it a little bit in my best of 2024 video, but really the reason why Furiosa didn't do so well was because of how long it took between Fury Road and now for that film to be released, because it was 9 whole years between movies. And since then, George Miller basically made, what was it, 1,000 Years of Longing between then. And I think he had another movie between Fury Road and Furiosa, but that's a whole different story. Originally, it was supposed to have Charlize Theron as Furiosa once again, but that got changed over time because of how long the movie was taking to make. And so they cast, Anya Taylor-Joy, which she is a tremendous performer. I think she's a tremendous actor. But I think for many people, I do see where people are coming from when they say that they were definitely not motivated to watch the movie, because I think for some of them, they wanted Charlize Theron to, reprise her role. And I definitely understand where people come from. However, I'm in the business of giving movies a chance, and unfortunately, I didn't even get to see it in theaters because by the time I had money to go see it, it had left. So I had to watch it when it got onto streaming. And it was a fucking badass movie. The color grading, the action sequences, it taking time to establish character and mood, is a very different feeling movie than that of the high octane Fury Road, right? It's a very different movie. It has some of the DNA of Fury Road, but it's its own feeling. It's its own story. And that's what I really loved about Furiosa. The Fall Guy was hella fun. You know what? I'll say it. I mean, it's fine. The Fall Guy was fine. I wasn't necessarily, the biggest guy to like Fall Guy. There's some great stuff about it. I like the bombastic third act, which I found really fun. But at the same time, I don't know. It just didn't quite click with me the way I thought it was going to. And I don't know if it was, the weird script or just how long it was running. I don't know. It was fine. For me, it was just fine. And it was fun, but it was also just fine for me. In my opinion, anyway. I mean, this is hot takes, so take it with a grain of salt or leave the kitchen. I don't know. And that's it for hot takes this video. If you have any hot takes that you want me to discuss in a future video, please put them in the comment section down below. You can also find me now on Blue Sky. I've been there for a few months. I'm no longer on Twitter, so don't search me up on Twitter. I'm gone from there. I'm glad I left. That site is such a hellscape. Thank God. Anyway, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm also on Facebook at Spearman Studios. And obviously you can comment on this video for any hot takes. I'm also on Letterboxd. I'll link that in the description below. And yeah, I'm going to get back to watching Malcolm in the Middle. I'm also going to be working with a friend this weekend and next weekend on a short film he wanted to do. So yeah, I'll share more information about that as time goes on. But yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully we do another one of these. I would love to. Again, give me all your hot takes. Please. I'm begging you. I need to survive burnout. So please give me more hot takes.